שלום לכולם, שמי סיריל מהחברה בולסר בצרפת. בולסר היא החברה שהקמתי עם חברים שלי בשנת 2005. אנחנו היום 12 שיתופים בבולסר ועובדים רק עם ג'ומלה. אבל זה יהיה יותר מדי קשה בשבילי להסביר כל מה שאני רוצה לתאר בעברית, אז אני מעדיף להמשיך באנגלית. בכל זאת, אני בטוח שזה יהיה יותר קל בשבילכם לסבול את האנגלית שלי מהעברית שלי. זה לא היה יכול לבוא לישראל בלי לנסות לפחות לדבר עם השפה הזאת שאני אוהב. שכחתי בסוף ההרצאה שלי, אם יש לכם שאלות, בבקשה באנגלית. Okay, so we continue in English. The topic of today is to stress the tremendous ability for Joomla to build not only website, advanced website, but real business web application, business tools. Because I do love Joomla. I've been working with it since 2007. But you may have met people, you may have heard people telling you that Joomla is not for professional. It has a bad reputation. It's somewhere stranded between the easiness of WordPress and the power of Drupal. It would suffer from too many security breaches. And with a kind of compassionate look, it tries to tell you, it tries to make you understand that isn't Joomla a bit old-fashioned? So of course no. But the truth is that even if we add problems with the former Joomla version, Joomla is one of the rare open source CMS that can be used in 3 different ways, in 3 different manners. The first way is the common way, which is gathering existing extension, find out in the Joomla extension directory. It's very easy. You gather the extension. It's very fast. It doesn't require special skills, but you nearly cover about 80% of the specifications of your customer. I'm not talking about simple and small site. I'm talking about sites with high-end functions. So the 80% are very easily made, very easily achieved with this the way of working with Joomla. But the remaining 20% are very, very hard to achieve, and they require hacks most of the time. And even if you succeed, you have the problem of the cross functions, such as the SEO, the geolocalization, the searches, which require most of the time extensions of extensions. And even if you solve this problem, you have the problem of the interfaces, because all the different extensions you gather in your site have different interfaces. So you have the problem of the evolution, the problem of the updates, and you have, of course, you multiply the issues for the security. And since you stack up a lot of extensions, you have the problem of performance. So you understand that this kind of working is very easy, but it's not the best way for professional high-end websites. At the other end of the scope, you can use Joomla as a PHP framework, which is true because you can almost install no extension and use with the Joomla platform, which is a real MVC OOP PHP framework. And if you have the required skills, if you have good developers, and if you have enough money, you can achieve a real application, a real business application, but it takes time and it's expensive. So it has to be reserved for very, very high projects. It's a good way of working, it's a professional way of working, but it's not for the common stream. The third way is the one you understood that we we have chosen in Pulsar back 4 or 5 years ago is the CCK approach, in which you install almost just one extension that replaces all of them, or almost. And with this way of working, you can cover all the specification of your customers. You solve the problem of the different interfaces, the cross functions, and you can master the problem of security and performance. It's easier to manage the updates because you lower the risk, you lower the number of extensions, and depending on the CCK you choose, of course, this is what we will see. And what about the time and the cost? It's something in between the first approach, which is very fast, very inexpensive, and the second approach, which is much more expensive. So it's something in between. Same thing for the skills that are required. So the number we put here are just an example, just an idea, of course. So it is known that Joomla doesn't come up with a CCK. There is no native CCK in Joomla. But we can count at least a dozen of working CCK for this CMS. And this, one of the strengths of this CMS is to be able to be worked with different CCK. I just put one of the most famous. So what we try to do for years is to evaluate each of them, because depending on your project, depending on your profile, you have to choose a different CCK for your project. So we define a first set of criteria. Of course, these are our criteria. They are subjective. But this first set of criteria are the technical ones. So we are talking about is the CCK extending Joomla or replacing it? It means that do we use the native Joomla tables, or do we replace them with custom tables? What about not only the articles, but the users, the groups, the categories? What about the user forms? It means that is a CCK able to manage your contact form, or whatever front form you want? What about the list and the searches, which is very, very important? It's quite useless to just add fields if you are not able to display lists that are filtered by these fields. So you have to measure the power, how far you can go with the list and the searches with the CCK. What about the multi-sites? What about the workflows? The workflows, the triggers, the notifications, which is the dynamic model. You have the static model, which is very important, the way the things are organized, the way the things are defined. But you have the dynamic model. The dynamic model is the way the things behave in time. So how they evolve. How your content evolve. What are the states? Another criterion is the reusability. It's very, very important for a web agency to be able to package the things you do for one project and to reuse it in another project in no time. So will the CCK help you in this way? What about versioning? What about the data storage, which is also very important? How far you can control the way you store data in your database. So we try to evaluate the CCK from with a notation from 1 to 5, and we made an average notation of this notation, and we inject this first set of criteria in a second set of criteria, which are this time the ease of use, the editor team size, which is very important. If you invest in a tool, you have to be sure that in a few years the tool will still exist. What about the quality of the support, the quality of the documentation? What about the community, of course? Which we are talking about open source tools. So what about the strength of the community, the size, and its activity? So we took all this notation and we made our choice, which is only our choice. So our choice is Zyblot. I'm telling you this just not to tell you that Zyblot is the best CCK. It doesn't mean anything. I just try to explain you the why we choose it. We choose Zyblot for its model. It's very, very important to understand that for us, when you work with Joomla, you have to keep all the ecosystem of Joomla, all the existing plugins. So for us, it was very important that we choose a CCK that extends the native Joomla article. And not only the article, but also the users, the groups, and the categories. So we are still working with the Joomla native elements, but we are extending them. This is the first thing. The second thing is the unification. Unification at the forms level. There is no reason using different components for front-end form, such as contact form, and submitting an article in the backend or in front end. The same thing. In both cases, you fill fields and you press a submit button and you store it in the database. Same thing. So the CCK has to allow you to manage your front form as well. And the same thing for the list and the searches. There's no reason to separate them. A list is always an implicit search. So when you display a list, you make a search. So there is no reason to separate the list and the searches. And this diagram shows you that every web page is composed of contents, lists, and forms. So if you have a tool that helps you to build forms, contents, and lists, you are sure, and it's very important, you are sure that you can cover all the specifications of your customer. When a customer asks me if I can do it, there's no reason for telling him no, because I know it's feasible. It's feasible because the model allows it. It may take time, it may be more or less expensive, but we can do it. Another important thing is the database control. So you have to master not only where your fields are stored, but the format of each field. And as I said, the reusability. With this CCK, but it's true with other CCK, you can package what you did from one project and in 2 clicks reuse it in another project, which is very important for a web agency. We've got other things like content types inheritance. The community and the support is good, and it even allows you to build multi-sites using the native ACL system, and all these things in a graphical environment. This is why we chose this CCK, but you may have chosen something else. Another mention is, what about the other CMS? Because we worked a few years ago with other CMS. Of course, the CCK world comes from the Drupal world. And so in Drupal, the CCK is much more intricate. The integration is better in Drupal because it is completely native. But there are issues. The model is not as complete as what we can find in the Joomla world. It means, for example, that you have to use another extension, which is a module in the Drupal world, to build your front-end forms. And in the WordPress world, it's even worse. You have not as many as a CCK in WordPress, but one of them is good, is Pods. Pods is very easy to use, as always with WordPress, but the model is not as complete. This time you don't have search form, you don't have front forms, and very, very rapidly you have to code things. This is always the thing with WordPress. So it's very easy at the beginning, but at the end it becomes very hard. So with this united production chain, we are able, with Joomla, to build not only websites, but document management system, IL website, job board, CRM, intranet, extranet, etc., etc., with the same production chain, which is very important. For example, for a famous French university, which is La Sorbonne, we develop a multi-site project in which you have different front-end on different domains, but each site has its own contents, but you can share functions. For example, a directory. This is a directory in one site, and the same directory with a different CSS in other site. So you share functions. It's not just multi-environment, multi-sites on the same Joomla. You can share functions, and if you have someone belonging to both universities, it will show up in both directories. So it means that you not only are sharing functions, but you also are sharing data. And this is based on the native ACL. Another example with a CCK, these are examples of projects we wouldn't have been possible, without the CCK with Joomla. These are mobile first or responsive job boards. You know job boards? These are professional tools making connection between job seekers and companies. So the first one, post and search resumes, and the other one, post and search jobs, and we make connections between them with alerts, automatic tools, etc., etc. So this kind of application wouldn't have been possible with just Joomla or with extensions. We built a DMS, document management system, with Office integration, with the possibility of displaying the custom views of your own document without duplicating them, with complex workflows, of course in a mobile environment. This is another example of complex planning tools that have been realized with the same production chain, just Joomla and the CCK, in which you have people creating resources, cars, appliances, rooms, other people putting meetings in the planning, etc., etc., and so on. Another example is for a French research institute. It's a multi-language website, nothing special here. But the website is used as well for the candidates to fill the application form, and through a complex workflow, we have different kind of people, the experts, the coordinators, the scientific committee members, who share the workflow, and you see you've got the candidates that they have to fill the application in the front end, and the coordinators create the calls for application, and they distribute the applications to the expert, and the expert evaluates, etc. And so you see, okay, עוד 5 דקות. You see that this workflow wouldn't have been possible without the CCK because we use the Joomla articles, but we extend the values of the state of Joomla article, and we build our own content types, and not only the content types, but also the list, the searches, the states, so the dynamic model. So the reason of my talk today was not to stress the power of one CCK over another, because if you take all the criteria that I showed, it really depends on your profile and the kind of project. But what we have realized with years is that we confirm our choice for Joomla back in 2007, and the combination of Joomla with the CCK allows us to build more and more efficient projects for our customer. And this is what is very important, because we are sure now that we can come up with any real applications, business applications, because it really relies on the inner model of the program. Okay, I thank you for your attention.